This is the Hustlers Podcast, featuring Brian Ross, Julien Meyer, Artie Stokey, and Serg Albino.
All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 3 of The Hustlers. There's only two hustlers here today, myself and Serg Albino. Serg, what's going on?
What's going on, brother?
So I guess today is a classic story of the early bird gets the worm, and also that you can plan for as many things as you possibly can, but it doesn't always work out. So Artie is in Las Vegas. Artie, we're very jealous of you. He's with his brother at his bachelor party. We wish you guys a lot of fun, the best of luck. Be safe. Hopefully make it home so that we can see you on next week's episode. And Brian is actually out sick today. So Serg, we usually do the updates. I'll go second. I'll let you jump in, go first. Quick update, what's going on in life, what's going on in business. I know a couple of things from what we just talked about, but just let the audience know what's going on.
Sounds good, man. Good morning. Good morning. First off, Artie, always bet on black, buddy. Enjoy Vegas, brother. So yeah. So really interesting week for me, for us, the team. We wrapped up negotiations with NASA. We've been back and forth in discussion with NASA Transit Office. I've been working with them diligently since last Friday on terms and whatnot that are what's considered mutually beneficial. I'm happy to say that we wrapped that all up yesterday. We have agreed on everything, and we're looking to execute thing next week. So we had that going. It was a very late night for me last night. We ended up celebrating. We had a meeting with two scientists, Terry from Kirinaga Partners, my partner Ian. Went out for a dinner and drinks, just kind of do some vision planning on what's to happen here within the next year with ecosystem and IROC decontamination. And it was good times, man. We had a lot of good time last night. Didn't get home till 1 a.m. and we're here at 5 a.m. So
Killer.
Let's do it.
I love it. And funny, that's kind of where I was at this week too. You know, I'm negotiating to do some things with Blurtbox, and prior to this week, we were kind of in this stall phase with one of the companies we're talking to. But that's kind of what's going on. I can't give too much detail, kind of similar to what you're going through, Serg, because we're still kind of in those active talks. But it's been definitely a negotiating type week. And then also what I've been doing is I've just been trying to kind of hedge my bets. So I feel like I've done this in the past before. Every time I'm preparing to exit kind of the major business I'm in, I start setting up some smaller ones. This way, God forbid anything were to happen to that one, I have these other projects to work on, kind of like the Hustlers, kind of like that startup financial news show I have. And so I think that, you know, my big thing right now, at least like business and life-wise, is to kind of create this, maybe like a little bit of a construction site almost, where there's different pieces that are being under construction and they're all kind of building up this one massive structure or landscape or resort, you know, however you want to think about it. So I'm kind of happy that things stalled on that front, because it's given me that opportunity again. But also what I'm trying to do is just make sure that, you know, I keep my big opportunity in line. And, you know, the biggest thing for me right now has just been the financial struggles that I've put myself to get this business to where it is. So I'm trying to do as best as I can to move forward in that situation. So we'll see how that happens. Obviously for the show, as I know more and as I can disclose more, I will on that deal, but more to come on that in weeks to come. So Serg, you know, we discussed this prior to the show. You and I discuss a lot of things throughout the week, and it's very apparent that from your update and from what I just said, and not having Brian and Artie here, I mean, I think our topic for today is pretty clear. I think we should focus on negotiation for entrepreneurs, for hustlers, because that's something that kind of gets overlooked. You and I both have MBAs from the same school. We had some great professors that, you know, took us through these courses that got us prepared for the business world. I had a great negotiation course. I'm not sure if you took the same one. Right, you did. So we have that advantage, but I think that negotiation is something that's overlooked a lot of the time because it's seen as, oh, well, you'll cross that bridge when you get there, but really it's a game of preparation and of psychology. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it's a poker game. It's a poker game, and you got to be diligent enough. You got to be honest. I think you cannot be you can't be shrewd. You can't be conniving in the negotiations. Yeah, the professor we had at Rollins, Dr. Professor Grimm, and you know, I've never actually gone through his formal negotiation course, but I have audited a couple classes with it. Um, Great guy, love the
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things I want to highlight, I guess we can use kind of, for our audience, kind of situational descriptions of how we've used the negotiation skill and why it's so important. Because I think that, had I turned to a resource like the Hustlers, I would look for tips on how I could improve kind of immediately on what I'm doing in life and in business. And I think that when it comes to negotiation, it's kind of a learning thing, right? It's, a skill, I know a skill, put those two skills together, you're a 10 times better negotiator. It's not twice as good, you're 10 times better because now you have that additional tool set. And, I know for me, the big thing that we've discussed mutually has been that Never Split the Difference book by Chris Voss. I had him on my show this week. And that was a big game changer for me. I want to maybe just dive deeper into I want to dive deeper into that book specifically because I think that it's something that everybody in the audience, if you're negotiating for anything in life ever, if you're negotiating for a better salary, if you're negotiating for the sale of your business, if you're negotiating with your kids on what time they need to go to bed, I think that book will help them tenfold. So what's been your experience going through the book, reading it? And, I'd just love to hear from you.
Yeah, so again, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I actually tagged up with him in Twitter this week, the Twitter world. And hey, Chris, I got those coming to you in Amazon and Audible. So I love the book, man. I mean, this has just been great. I think the biggest takeaway with this book basically is the system, right? And it's a system that you just got to follow. And as people, especially if you're not a system, it's easy to go away from the system so quickly. You have to be very disciplined at following the system and using of the system. It's kind of like martial arts. I teach Filipino martial arts also. And we always provide, within the system, we always provide tactics and offense and defense tactics and whatnot. And you just got to follow the system, right? And then when you get good enough, that system is just so innate that you don't even have to think about it. But in the beginning, you have to consciously think about it. So negotiation side, especially if you're new to it, you're going to be consistently, consciously thinking about each system. But the trick is, if you're negotiating via email or via phone, you can work the system. You have a cheat sheet, So just follow the system, stay diligent, and I put it to you this way: I haven't told her yet, but it actually works on my wife too. So
make sure she does not watch this episode.
I know, Chris. I'll be honest with you. The mirroring and gosh, let me pull out some notes here that I have because it has to work, my friend. Mirroring and labeling and then questioning. I think I've won a couple negotiations with a significant other, and I usually lose.
Oh man, but okay, let's see.
So Brian?
I'm reading from Brian. He said, "Oh, it's not him that was sick. His daughter was sick." So, okay, well, we wish his daughter to get better. And Brian, we miss you, buddy. We'll see you on the next one.
Good, buddy.
So, anyway, getting back to today's show and the topic of today's show, I think that you brought up a lot of great points, and I also love that we kind of discussed how we're using this as a roadmap, even though we have MBAs and we've gone through these courses, because obviously this show, it's not about, being the highest production. We don't have that great equipment. I mean, our camera quality is low, audio is, here or there. So it's never been about the highest production quality. It's been about the highest quality content. And it's been about providing the audience with tools and tips and tricks and discussions that they can use right away as entrepreneurs, as hustlers, as, dreamers, whatever it is. And I'm so happy that we're kind of using today, since it's a little bit of a different format, just me and you to kind of have this book discussion, because when it comes down to it, I mean, again, with all the education that you and I have, I still feel like I got more out of a $15 book at Barnes & Noble that's teaching me about these things, because I applied myself and I was able to sit there, go through it, highlight pieces like mirroring, like labeling, like open-ended questions, and be able to sit in a boardroom yesterday. And I'll give you guys my experience with the book. I read the book twice. I read the book once on the train from Boston to New York City about 6 months ago. And then I re-listened to it after Serge reminded me of it about a month ago on Audible. And I did that because I was about to go through this negotiation that I'm in right now. And as I was going through it, I started writing stuff down, remembering, going, oh yeah, there's that piece, there's this you can use, this is how you negotiate for the salary, this is how you negotiate for a lower price. Just really good information. And one of the big things was that I kept going through it, and I was like, this is incredible. I mean, this is a $15 resource compared to a $50,000 degree. And in the 6 or 8 hours that it takes to listen to on Audible, you're pulling out all these like golden nuggets. And basically what Serge was saying, a checklist, a roadmap on how to negotiate. And guys, the stuff in there works. The stuff in that book works tenfold. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, you walk away from that book. Most books you walk away from, you either go, oh, I liked it. It was a good book. I enjoyed it. I'll pass it on and read somewhere. Probably won't read it again. This book you walk away from, you're like, oh my God, checklist. And it kind of, you want to go back and re-go through it, because I mean, the stuff works, guys, doesn't it, Serge? I mean, the moment you start even just mirroring someone, I feel like you're a better negotiator.
Yeah, it's crazy simple. Crazy simple, and it just works. So, it's funny because, like, especially in Filipino martial arts, right? And I go back to Filipino martial arts all the time, or martial arts all the time. I mean, we do stick and knife fighting, so everything's very fast paced, right? But the guys you never want to mess with, right? The guys that you never want to mess with in the Filipino martial arts world, that can barely walk, that have to use a cane, right? And it's basically because they are so refined their system, they refine their movements over the years and years and years of practice, that there's no more fat. It's all simplified, right? I think back about this old masters and this book right here, and what this book has basically have done is just and all the filler materials of negotiations, and basically just said, hey, it works. You just got to use these 3 things. So I mean, not 3 things, but these things that Chris has listed. So the one thing that I love about the book is in the back of the book. So if you're an Audible guy, get the hard copy also, right? Because in the back of the book, they actually have some not the acknowledgments, but the appendix section where they have a prepare negotiation 1-sheeter, and they also have summary notes for each chapter. Or if you're ever needing to pick up quick tips on on the fly, you can just go back to that back portion of the book and just see all the notes that you've read, and everything will just come back to you. So get the hard copy also. So,
yeah, and I agree with that. I have the Kindle version and the Audible version, but I still want the hard copy, so I'll get it for my 3rd time through. But you mentioned something I want to bring up with the stick and knife fighting, which I loved, which is that negotiation, much like stick and knife fighting, it's a skill. It's a skill that you hone when you first start at any of these things. It's okay to not be the master. It's okay. It's better to have enough self-awareness to know that you're not the best. And I think that's a good thing that me and you can discuss, because a lot of the times, especially as hustlers and entrepreneurs, we have to go into things with massive amounts of confidence. You go into boardrooms really not knowing what the fuck you're talking about, but then coming in and, having this confidence and this bravado, and then after getting out of there, looking at your partner and going, how are we going to make this happen? That's a big part of the game. But I think the other big part of the game is you have to be able to back that confidence up with not just smoke and mirrors, because that's what a fake entrepreneur does. That's what a lot of these fakepreneurs do today. So it's not just about having the confidence, it's about having the tools and the skill set. And I think a big part of what we're probably going to do with this show as we progress, our game plan right now for season 2 is to all start a business together, which at that point will kind of highlight all of our strengths and all of our weaknesses and show how the 4 of us work better together than separate. But until we get to that point, I think kind of what we're trying to do with these first few episodes is show that A, none of us is perfect. B, this is more of a community. And C, that there are tools out there, regardless of what people might want you to think, that will make you a better entrepreneur or hustler. And that specifically for this episode, negotiation is a tool that, much like a knife, when a knife gets dull, you can sharpen it. That's what negotiation to me is. That's what a negotiation skill is. So I want to talk, Serge, about, practice, not just in negotiation. Yes, a little bit in negotiation. I want to talk about a couple things that I want to go through to become a better negotiator, but just practice in general. I mean, what do you, as an entrepreneur, as a hustler, what are some skills along with negotiation that you feel like you need to practice or refresh yourself on? Because I know me personally, I have a few, but I'd love for you to go first on, what is something that you feel like you just, if you don't get that, maybe not daily, but weekly or monthly practice in, that you're just not going to be as good at it as if you had practice?
So, in the past, I spoke quite a bit of mindfulness. So I go back to that. You definitely have to practice that. At the very least, with mindfulness, you want to practice 3 things. You basically want to get at least 10 minutes of meditation in a day, preferably early in the morning or just when you need it, affirmations and, visualization. I think between those 3 things, those are very, very good things to practice, because there's already been some studies of especially visualization and affirmation, that it's actually it's tricking the brain really, that what you're thinking about, what you're visualizing, has already happened, right? So when you actually go through it, the body and the mind reacts so naturally, because in here it's already happened. It's you've kind of gone through the whole process already, and that's kind of like the same thing in back again to the martial arts world, or even for the most popular ones out there these days, the MMA world or boxing, right? Look at this Mayweather and Conor McGregor drama going on. Like, I'm loving it. These guys are having drinks. I bet you every single night these guys are having drinks. We're racking up the bucks, But coming back to MMA and boxing, I mean, look at boxing alone. 12 rounds, 3-minute rounds each. 3-minute rounds. They're probably going through about 72 rounds of training a day, 12 rounds. So that's a lot of practice. It's a lot of jabs, it's a lot of hooks, it's a lot of combos, so that during fight night, there's no more thought. One of my senseis used to tell me, it's you want to approach the world with soft eyes and no mind.
I love that. Soft eyes and no mind, huh?
Yeah. Soft eyes and no mind, basically meaning you're focused, but you just see everything. You're not laser focused on just one thing. You just see everything coming through, and no mind, no thoughts. You're gonna get hit.
I love that. I think there's so much insight in that. And I would encourage people to ponder on that because I'm going to. But I think, a big thing for me when it comes to practice and, again, this episode is more about negotiation. One of the things I want to do, like I said, is I really do want to find some forum where I can continue to practice that. I know in Chris's book, he talks about mentioning, joining basically the suicide hotline, which is kind of way outside the box for what we're talking about. But for him, wanting to be an FBI hostage negotiator, it's basically perfect practice in how you talk somebody down from an extremely emotional situation or from something, that's life threatening. So I love that he had mentioned that. And, for me, I don't know if I would go that extreme, but maybe doing something like telemarketing, or maybe doing something like some debate team, or something, just because I see the importance in practicing that as a skill. But also I think that a big thing that I've noticed personally is a lot of entrepreneurs today and a lot of business people, because entrepreneurship has become pop culture, public speaking is a big thing. So you get invited to classrooms, you get invited to talk at your alma mater, you get invited to talk at business seminars, you get invited to panels. And a lot of people see me now. I do these 250 person plus. I've done 1,000 person events, and that might seem small, but when you get in front of 50 people for the first time, or even 25 people, it's very nerve-wracking. It's very scary. And a lot of people come up to me, they're like, "Oh, you're so good at it, blah, blah. How do you do it?" And I'm like, I've been doing this for like 6 years at least. I started with 10 kids. That was my first classroom that I spoken from, was 10 people. And then I slowly worked my way up, but it was over a course of, 100 plus probably public speaking gigs that I've done over the last 6 years. But I've had to practice that. Even though, I feel like I have a natural born skill to communicate and to get up there, it doesn't mean that you don't practice it, right? You can go in with the confidence, but you have to have that discipline to say, if I want to be a show host, like what we're doing today, if I want to be a radio host, if I want to do public speaking, if I want to be an entrepreneur, whatever it is you want to do, the most important step, yes, is starting, but I would argue that the most important step after that is not even continuing. It's each day getting better, but also each day practicing. And it's each day being okay with whatever mini failures you had and building off of them. Because I think that's one thing that's not highlighted enough, especially today. Today, with everything that's on YouTube, today with everything that's on, there's these different podcasts, it's like the pounding in of this mindset that you need to have the 18-hour workday, and that there is no work-life balance, and that, the only way you're going to succeed is by hustle, 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 kill it, kill it, kill it. But I think what we're trying to show you with the hustlers is that there's plenty of room in there, especially if you're someone that's, a highly productive person, to say, yeah, I need my work block. I have to get certain things done, but I also need my meditation. I also need my faith. I also need my 30 minutes of my YouTube videos for motivation. I also need my 30 minutes to practice public speaking. I need my 30 minutes to practice negotiation. And sometimes you just need your 30 minutes to sit down, veg out, and watch reality TV to get your mind off everything, or 30 minutes to go to the gym, or whatever it is, right? And Serge, I think that's a much bigger issue that we haven't addressed yet on the show that I want to address when all four of us are here. But let's touch on it briefly as we're coming up on the end of the show here, briefly on how important it is to take time, not just to practice, but to do all these other things and fit them into your daily routine when you're an entrepreneur, because burnout is a very real thing, my friends. It has happened to me plenty of times. It is very scary, and there is nothing worse than burnout. Burnout can last 3 days or 6 months. There's no telling how long it's going to last, and the best thing to do is to avoid burnout. So, Serge, anything you want to comment on that?
No, I the burnout is there's a Harvard Review article, Business Review article on CEO and burning out. A couple years back, we actually did in one of our case studies at Crummer. And as leaders, right, you don't have to be a CEO to go through a burnout. And I hate using this phrase, but that old phrase saying that it's lonely at the top. It doesn't necessarily mean you're at the top of the world where you're successful, right? It just means that it's you're at you're at a different level playing field where you have a lot more responsibility. You're in that leadership role. So you don't necessarily have to be a CEO to be a leader in any respect, right? But when you get into that position, you gained all the responsibility, especially responsibility for others. You don't have a particular routine that you could always fall back into. Keep your routine, your system. Burnout can happen really bad. Can happen really, really bad. It's like, it's kind of like, I use my faith as peg my system also. Because a lot of times, and I find myself sometimes guilty of this, not sometimes, but the times that I reach to my faith when, when things are not going so well, right? And that's kind of like a Catholic thing, right? Sorry, Padre, I'm back again. Things didn't go so well, and why didn't I not talk to God when things were going right? That's a question, right? So discipline to actually go back into your system, especially your faith, to basically not only talk to God from a standpoint of things not going so hot, but also talk to God from a standpoint of things are going great. Just want to let you know, big ups up there, good looking out. Thank you. Simple things like that. So that's one of the pegs to my routine. Workout is another thing. There's, it's funny because like we say we hustle, right? It doesn't really mean that, like yesterday was pretty much an 18-hour work day for me, right? And it's been an 18-hour work days for me for a very long time. I'm at Starbucks almost every night, at least 4 nights a week, between the hours of 9 to 12, because that's the only one that opens till 12 a.m. That my kids, that I'm a barista at Starbucks, They think I moonlight as a barista at Starbucks because I'm at Starbucks working every night, To do that, to basically do all the different aspects of our routine, So at night, I basically focus on a couple different segments of the businesses between Ecospheres and IROC decontamination point in time. So we have our system for doing it for those block of hours, because that's where he and I kind of think differently. System, when we get in the morning, we do a round of emails and the negotiations and all the stuff that you have to be really mindful of. And then in the afternoon, we try to hit a coffee shop because we like to get the feed of different energy coming in, whether it's, guys coming in and talking about software, or a lady walking her dog and talking to her dog about, you want to feel that different energy. So you gotta figure out your own routine. If not, borrow one from somebody, try it out, and if it works, it works. You didn't have to think about it. If it doesn't, then so just have fun, but figure out a routine and stick with it, or a system.
Yeah, I love it. And you mentioned a lot of great stuff there, but one big thing, you said a quote, which is, it shows how, even though we're in very different businesses, we're so like. One of the things I've been saying for years, since really my first business, I used to sit and meet with other entrepreneurs, and I had this saying where I said, it's lonely at the top, but the top doesn't mean winning or succeeding or making tons of money. The top means you're playing at your all-time top. It means you're playing at your best. It means you're using all of your abilities to the best of your ability, in a sense, and going out and chasing and dreaming, and yes, achieving along the way. But I think it's a very important thing to highlight. I know we've kind of veered off a little bit from negotiation, so bear with us, guys, because this is a very important topic. Is that if you're someone that's in a position to, even where you're watching this YouTube video, and that's something that you do, it comes down to what it's lonely at the top means, is that kind of like Serg is saying, he likes to go to Starbucks to see other people in their routines. I sympathize and empathize with you, because this is a very lonely game. Even if you're surrounded by, if you're an entrepreneur and you're in an office or you're in a co-working space and you're surrounded by employees or colleagues or, other people that are in a co-working space, yes, that's one thing. If you're a closet entrepreneur, a dorm room entrepreneur, a house entrepreneur, whatever it is, that's another thing too, because, both of those situations, when you're surrounded by people that are either, employees or whatever, they may not understand fully what you're going through, what it takes to make something happen. When you're alone, that's also physically being alone. There's a human psychology piece there where you kind of need that interaction, those different viewpoints. So I think that an important thing to highlight from what Serg has said and from where this discussion has gone is that even though it's lonely at the top, when you're at the top of that mountain, don't look down, look out and find other people that are playing on that level playing field. Mm-hmm. Then use your walkie-talkie or use the yodel or whatever it is to reach out and to wave at them and to say hello and to have a chat with them and to have a conversation with them. Look for people that are playing at the top of that game and surround yourself by people that are playing at the top of that game. And this show, even though it has primarily to do with business, this applies to if you're someone that's, hustling as an entrepreneur, maybe your best friend or the person that's going to give you the most advice or understand you the most is your athlete friend that's training to be a runner. It's not like you have to find like that perfect match. Just look for someone that's trying to achieve something higher. And even if they failed over and over and over again, that's okay. We fail all the time in this game. That's a big part of this, isn't it, Serg? I don't want to spend too much time on what's coming up in the end, but that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. You gotta the only way to elevate is to basically work with others that are also stepping up their game, because it's very hard to basically elevate your game when everybody else is just like a herd, just following a herd mentality. You find the others breaking out of the herd and trying to do their thing. And we talked about it this week, about doing more of a video, capturing more videos of what Ian and I are going through right now with Ecospheres, IROC, and soon to be the Roost, because here, especially here in Central Florida is a very sleepy. We're Orlando. It's coming up as a big city, but it's very laid back down here as compared to New York, where you have to hustle. That Ian and I feel that basically we can elevate our game is to bring it live, bring it to the public. That way, if we say we're gonna do something, then we got a couple of thousand followers on social media that's gonna say, "Why didn't you guys do it?" Right? And that's gonna elevate the game. So if you can't find it within your city, I mean, and if you live in a small city, bring it live, bring it to other cities using our technology these days, but that's very important. You gotta work with others that are also elevating themselves.
Yeah, there we go. I love it. And so, I think to wrap things up, Serg, well, first of all, if you ever need, plenty of couches here in New York, if you need a place to stay, so you're always welcome.
There any day.
And, I think here, let's wrap up the episode. Let's draw this all to a point. So guys, the two things we really discussed there. Number one, the importance of negotiation and practice. And, we mentioned the book, Never Split the Difference by Christopher Voss. Serg and I are both big fans. The other hustlers are as well. We're getting them tuned into it. So give it a look, practice it, understand it, hone it in. Like Serg said, it's worth picking up the hard copy, even if you're an Audible guy like I am. Give the Audible a listen, get the hard copy for reference. And then, on top of that, the second thing that we discussed was really this whole notion of, and, I'm having trouble figuring out how we got there. I think this has to do with maybe our personalities in this. Right. Okay. The system. So really the system of understanding and accepting that, in order to get better at anything, yes, you have to practice, but then you have to be okay with the fact that if you're playing at the top of your game, it's going to be very lonely, and you need to find a community or some friends or some people that understand you're dreaming, that understand that you're trying to achieve something higher. And just as Serg said many times, playing at the top does not mean being a CEO necessarily, or being, even a high-paid, high priority leader. It just means you're doing your best and you're achieving as much as you possibly can. And day in and day out, through life's many failures, you're not giving up. You're not quitting. And even if something seems like a very, very negative thing, like Serg was saying, you have to have your resources. For us, it happens to be our faith that we fall back on, that Catholic faith, which allows us to do that and come in. But, you have to find what your rock is going to be, because I can tell you, even with what I'm going through right now with the negotiation of my business and all that, I mean, there's no guarantees that we're even going to get anything out of it. So I'm doing the best I can to practice and to use the tips and tricks and tools and never split the difference. But, you have to accept the fact that this game comes with failures and comes with not necessarily knowing. You can plan as best as you can for the next day, but you're never going to know. So, yep. Serg, last 10 seconds. Anything else you want to mention about today's episode?
Oh, man, just a little light this morning, but we got 2 loose cannons on. So, Artie, Brian, I don't know, guys. You put the loosest cannons on live today. So I just want to say good show. Everybody have a great weekend. I'm going to be on vacay starting tomorrow until Tuesday next week. But I'll catch everybody here next Friday. And I'm going to get some R&R. That's another part of my routine. Every now and then you got to treat yourself, right? So
I'm doing the same thing. It's my birthday this weekend, so I'm actually going to shoot you a text. I'll probably be down in Florida. So
sounds good.
But all right, cool. So Serg, I think we pulled it off. I think probably a few less jokes from Artie, and probably a little less insight without having Brian here. I wish he would have been here, but that's okay. And I think that we just bought ourselves sick days. We probably just bought ourselves a sick day each, to where we'll be able to have them fill in either if we go out late one night or we're sick. So I think we just earned one for ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Hustlers, everybody out there, we want to thank you for tuning in to Season 1, Episode 3 of The Hustlers. And we want to wish you guys a great end to your week. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you guys back here next week, Friday, 5 a.m. Be sure to tune in, check it out. We love having you guys along with us. And thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening to The Hustlers Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to get the latest episodes.